Witch King of Nagaroth, the most cruel and dark-hearted of all of his kin, and rightful leader of the Dark Elves, marches to war amongst a host of his finest servants of Cain. To be in the service of the Witch King Malekith is to be in a constant game of chess, as you outwit your peers to evade the ire of your wrathful lord. His eye ever set on Ulthuan, he looks to reclaim his birthright in becoming the next true Phoenix King and heir of an Aryan. But it was not always this way. The man known as Malekith was not always the twisted, icy fiend encased in armor that we know today. Once, long ago, he was a friend to a very different ruler in both stature and height. Snorri Whitebeard, or as he is sometimes known as Grombrindal, the White Dwarf, was the first High King of the Karazhan Corps. He and Malekith grew close during the elves' time in court, so much so that he was one of Snorri's greatest confidants and friends. Upon his deathbed, he made Malekith vow that the races of elves and dwarfs would forever be friends. Malekith agreed to the death vow, one of the most sacred and purest forms of promises that any dwarf can both request and commit to. Shortly after the Sundering, a hateful civil war between the High Elves and Dark Elves, Malekith orchestrated one of the most vicious and longest wars of the ancient times, the War of Vengeance, or as it is known by the Elves, the War of the Beard. The conflict that lasted hundreds of years ground both civilizations to a shadow of their former selves. Snorri Whitebeard has come back from the halls of Valaya to avenge the vow that Malekith broke on his deathbed. Today, Snorri Whitebeard will have vengeance. Today, a grudge will be satisfied.
And he will do just that here today, so we have a lovely thematic battle. Indie Pride has taken up the reins of Malekith's Dark Elves, and I will be playing the might of Grombrindal's lovely dwarfs. Now, we have two very great battle lines arrayed against us here today. You can see that Indie Pride's artillery is already starting to sound off down and into my troops, as you can see that kind of arcing down and into me. We have a lovely little composition in our army here with some nice dwarf warriors on the flanks, followed by some hammerers, then some Lordlings Ironbreakers, as well as just Ironbreakers as a whole, making up the center of my line, mirrored across the other side. In the very front, we have, you gotta have some miners. They're going to be disrupting any of those charges that come in with some really cool thematic and also some cinematic shots from them. We have the lovely Grombrindal himself, ornery as all hell. Look at that face. God, those pimples. Ugh. Then we have a nice unit of, or 4 units of Thunderers with a lovely set of Slayers that are just going to kind of patch up the holes in their flanks, and then some artillery all the way here in the back line. Organ guns, some cannons that are really going to pepper the army as we kind of come into close contact. Now, Indie Pride, on the other hand, has a lovely contingent of some cavalry, these are actually the Dreadlords, which you don't really see too often here, which I love so much. Look at those guys. So good. He's got some chariots here as well. He did take Malekith on foot as per, just to kind of get some good hand-to-hand up front and close and personal fighting. We didn't want this to be just this large beast against this little tiny dwarf, so just a nice little face-to-face confrontation here. So he's got some Blackguard Corsairs, some Bleak Swords we saw in the very front. He's got both units of Executioners, including the vanilla kind, as well as the Regiments of Renown. Then he has some Dark Shards here in the very back, as well as the Chill of Sontar. Where are you? Boom. And then a lovely another Hydra as well. Now let's see this this fight getting kicked off here into full motion. Now, what I do like about the Ironbreakers is they have a really great stat. I like their high armor, I like their high melee defense. But one thing that we noticed that Indie Pride actually kind of pointed out, he has the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers targeted. They're not really taking much damage because he's using, or he was using, the anti-infantry one. When he switched to the anti-large, gosh, it just chips away at these guys much faster. You can see just chunks of being flown into the air. So I had to make a really quick move here. We have to kind of shore up our battle line. Right now we were a little too off-center, so we need to make sure that we're moving in line with his troops. We got to make sure that it's a nice crash against the rocks here. I don't want him to have a nice oblique thrust upon me and make it feel weird in my stomach. Oh, I did mention that he did forget to mention that he's got 2 units of Sisters of Slaughter, which are the new units here from the latest expansion. really great in close combat. Their armor and their melee defense does increase as they kind of lose. So select them and get that highlighted here. Here it is, Trial of Blades. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just their armor piercing and melee attack increases. So they already have Murderous Mastery here as well. So they're like souped up versions of the Witch Elves. They get quite a little bit done. And then you have their innate physical resistance of 20% to represent the dodge characteristics they have from tabletop. Kind of really give that good nod to them. Of course, they don't have the most armor, so ranged damage does tend to do a little bit of damage, or a lot of damage to them. But they do have a higher melee defense than your normal Witch Elves. And here we have both armies are arrayed and starting to move downfield at one another as the runesmith's like, oh my god, wrong place. And for the majority of this fight, I won't be talking so much about the unit compositions and everything. I definitely wanted to take a page out of Indie Pride's book. He was kind of coaching me how he does his thematic battles. So we'll have a lot more of cinematic shots and stuff like that. I'll try to get as many slow-mos in as possible. And we'll really kind of focus on the core of the actual fight itself, and less of the actual tactics. That's really the gist of this one. Other than us kind of going balls deep on the actual try-hard 1v1, we wanted to make this kind of a thematic fight. This kind of, it plays well with the lore video that we just did here with Grombrindal himself and his relationship with Malekith. Dark Elves kind of trudge down the snow over here, both kind of lining up our artillery to see what kind of the best shots we can get. Slow movement of them. We're using a mod here that kind of changes the way everything looks. It kind of gives them little lieutenants. I'll put that in the description here below so you guys can see that, get good use out of that as well. Also doing some crazy action here in the forest, trying to get a little flank action on here. Really important. We want that really, it's nothing's more Dark Elf than getting up and behind their lines and just wreaking havoc on everything, especially trampling their own camps. It's just quite rude indeed, right? These Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are really starting to take up this firm punishing. They're already down to 80 just by that one bolt thrower just going non-stop into them. But now, we get some answering artillery from my end. Oh yes. Right into these Black Knight Corsairs. Thunder is starting to shoot down the line here.
The next kill is ours.
Or maybe not. Maybe it's just working. Battle target going off across the line.
Fire! Reload! Fire!
Really melting those warriors here. See that Shield Suntar just got a huge double breath attack here on these Ironbreakers, just cutting them down. Battle charges going off on the flanks here as we attack from the Dark Elves in the forest. More Dark Shards shooting across our lines into those Ironbreakers, trying to get some Runesmith's action across the line to get some increase in armor, some increase in melee defense. Continuing to satchel charge this mighty beast. Nothing is more romantic than watching a Hydra eat a Dwarf's face off. Shrine of Cain being focused by quite a few cannons, but nonetheless it is still getting in there. The Ironbreaker center line is completely crumbled to dust from a dual breath attack as well as being non-stop fired upon the entire game.
Nothing can stop us!
Thunder is getting some action in here. We have a charge in the back line from the chariots as well as the Dreadlords. They're handedly being handled by our orange-crested friends. Grombrindal's still waiting, biding his time to fight the Witch King himself.
Move now! Move!
Malekith here shredding his stuff. Trying to shut down this runesmith. Oh! Little Centaur jumping into his own men. See here, if we look back at the whole entirety of this fight, it's quite chaotic, right? The engineers, the artillery's still online though, still getting some shots into our larger beasts, which is hugely beneficial. Our Thunderers are coming back and forth from having fled and not fled. Oh yeah. That chariot looking in. Oh. Oh! Doombolt dropping in hard on those Thunderers. Not doing a ton of damage though. It's really down to the Slayers trying to kind of eke out some sort of damage here. Malekith and this Runesmith having one little quick duke off here. I'm not sure if that's the term I'm going to stick with, but I'm going to do it. Runesmith though is not faring too well against Malekith. He's chunking away his health every swing. Still Centaur's got a new target. And it's quite a massed up amount of dwarfs here. That's taking some thunder fire from the rear. Grombrindal comes in here though to take his oath. Oh yes. The Gretch shall be paid. As our two hero or anti-hero or villain, whatever you want to look at this as, duke it out. Look at their respective health. Grombrindal's and Malekith's healths are about neck and neck here, but Malekith is a little bit lower in the leadership, but he does have that Hydra coming to support him. Still dealing with these Hydras in our back line. Our left flank all the way over here is getting pretty firmly pulverized by this Death Hag, as well as the Sisters of Slaughter and the Executioners, which I don't think these warriors can really deal with much at all. Philip Centaur, though, is finally is on its last leg here, but it does have a very high regeneration, so we do have to be wary of those things with Hydras. Our two heroes here duke it out again. We're going fisticuffs. Beard to scarred, emulsified skin. Head pimples to beady eyes of doom. They're going at it too, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh god! Runesmith just got punted by that Hydra. So I got these guys I gotta get in the fight real quick here now. Malekith is looking like he is not gonna make it here. Who shall win? The White Dwarf or the the White Dwarf is already have his target on the run. The Witch King doth not fare well. Oh, take that! Home run, White Dwarf in a home run derby against Malekith knocks him out of the park. But there is quite an issue here with his amount of dark shards that are still online, and the battle is far from over. This Hydra is still firmly smacking his tail and using all 55 of his heads to devour more and more dwarf warriors, even as this unit of this unit of Thunderers tries to get the upper hand. Let's cut back to our triumphant Grombrindal, the White Dwarf, who is now caked in Malekith's own blood as he kind of surveys the battlefield, all the lost Dark Elves and Dwarfs on both ends who just cannot make it through this one. The Dark Shards here starting to take what's left of the Dwarf army out. The Hydra ripping through things left and right. The Chill of Centaur's health is back to almost half as it charges one of the last full health units of Dwarf Warriors after receiving a satchel charge from miners in the back here. Even then, look at these Dark Shards raining hell upon them, raining death all the way downfield. Grombrindal, the White Dwarf himself, getting in there to try and stem the tide of armor-piercing missiles that are coming out of these dark shards. Some lovely, lovely orange-crested slayers getting in there to chop some asses up. Chilassantar won't have any of it. Even his own troops are not free from harm from the lovely Chilassantar. Both Hydras now just wreaking havoc on both units of Dwarf Warriors, completely destroying them. Thunderers, small arms fire barking off across the field, trying to get any kind of damage we can into those larger creatures. But this unit of chariots is really going to make short work of any remaining dwarfs. Lumbering about, ready to eat some dwarf flesh. Chasing through the last vestiges of the dwarf army here. Even our other Hydra eating up this last dwarf warrior regiment as Grombrindal himself is on what is left of his beard, what's left of his legs. He's just barely eking it together. We have a runesmith who's in decent health right now, but we're going to start seeing some serious issues trying to deal with the remainder of these Dark Elf forces. We have some units stuck in the forest here. Gotta have them come help relieve the greater dwarf army, possibly even consolidate. Our dwarf engineer here is being picked apart by some Sisters of Slaughter, but he's still holding in there. He's still doing some significant damage, but the Sisters of Slaughter get way scarier the lower and lower their health is. One cannon unit, just barely there. Lost in a haze. Bolt thrower. The whole entire time that Reaper bolt thrower didn't move once. This was the bane of every single Ironbreaker on the map. We're coming up to the end of the fight here, guys. Hopefully you kind of enjoyed this different approach to the, my typical 1v1s are battle casts. I'd like to do a little bit more of these thematic ones with you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it here today. But it looks like this is overall a lovely win for the Dark Elves. Take a look at that post-battle report here. And I mean, you can really see the use of a lot of these things. Unfortunately, I don't get any actual results in the replay here, but you get a full look at both armies now. You can see the amount of bleak swords, the amount of dark shards, the amount of executioners that were brought, as well as miners and dwarf warriors. But again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Big thanks to Indie Pride for joining me here on this little foray and kind of coaching me through some of his approaches to how he does things here and there. So hopefully you enjoy this as a first kind of foray into this type of thematic battle, and we hopefully can do more in the future. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more of these or any kind of matchups you want to see in the future. But have a good one, and take care.